Hello, my wonderful, beautiful friends. Welcome back to r/EntitledPeople, guys, where you'll hear outrageous stories about people who think they should get special treatment and that nobody else matters. Like this person right here, who makes a Facebook post that says, "I don't think anybody should be allowed to have their own closed-off, heated pools in gorgeous backyards, while some of us are stuck with nothing. I don't trust the beaches because I don't want my kids swimming in disgusting water that's filled with who knows what kind of crap. It really breaks my heart to see my son upset because he can't go swimming." Now, I asked my neighbor kindly to let us use his backyard pool when he's not using it, and he says he'd be really uncomfortable if I just came into his backyard all the time. I mean, I understand the liability of letting my 6-year-old go by himself, but come on, I'll supervise him. Anyone else find it super unfair that people have private swimming pools and won't share? Guys, this post is absolutely ridiculous. Like, this person knows that public swimming pools do exist, right? There's rec centers and water parks everywhere. Your son doesn't have to be upset about not going swimming. Guys, it's only a matter of time before her neighbor goes on vacation and she takes over his private pool. Tell me I'm wrong. But with that out of the way, guys, you're about to hear some ridiculously entitled stories. So sit back, relax, because we're diving in. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button for future stories. So, my wife and I went to a Yankees game a few years ago. We got the tickets online and arranged to pick them up at will call. Once we got there, we got in line, which was about a 25 or 30-minute wait. No sooner did my wife and I get in line that this couple, who had been standing in a different line, approached us and demanded that they were in this line before we were and accused us of cutting in front of them. Now, this was a blatant lie, but since it was such a long line to begin with, allowing them to cut in front of us would have had virtually no effect. So God forbid that we should hold these two idiots up from the 10 seconds that they would save by cutting in front of us. A few moments after we allowed them to move ahead of us, the gentleman behind me in line, who witnessed the whole thing, who also knew they were lying, taps me on the shoulder and says, "Hey, do you see what I see?" and nodded towards them. I begin to inspect the direction he was looking and quickly realized that this couple was holding their tickets. I'm laughing to myself thinking, yes, instant karma. Now, the couple thought that they were in line for the gate, which, ironically, they had previously been standing in before moving to this one, and demanding to cut in front of my wife and I. So I turned back to the gentleman behind me and quietly said, "Hey, you think we should say something?" The guy looks me in the eye and then shook his head no, with a devilish smile. I then whispered to my wife, who was slightly annoyed that the couple cut in front of us, and I informed her of our discovery, and she had to stifle a laugh. She then loudly said, "Ugh, they deserve it for being such idiots, right?" All three of us then loudly laugh at this inside joke as the line keeps moving. So, for the next 30 minutes, it was the most fun I think I've had in a long time standing in a queue. You should have seen their faces when we got closer to the will call box and it finally dawns on them that there's no gate there. The couple turned beet red and stomped off to the line they were originally in, which only added to the hilarity. It was the closest I've ever come to literally rolling on the floor with laughter. Guys, I love this story so much. Nothing brings a smile to my face more than hearing about people getting what they deserve, and in this case, a healthy dose of karma. When I was in high school, my parents got divorced, and my mom has never stopped being bitter about it. She throws tantrums and tries to pull power moves to get more time or attention from her kids whenever possible. Since I live abroad, she kicks this behavior into overdrive whenever I come back to visit. So this particular year, my grandmother on my father's side had passed away, and not long before that, Dad's second wife had died. Needless to say, my dad's had a rough couple of years and he really wanted me home for the holidays. At that point in time, I didn't have any money to buy a ticket to come back, so he bought me one. He even paid extra to get me a more comfortable seat on a direct flight so I could get there quickly and in comfort. He was putting me up at his place for the entire visit and feeding me all the food I could eat. He never once asked for anything in return. The only thing he wanted was my company during the holidays, and how could I say no to my recently widowed father? And of course, I can't go home and not tell my mom that I'm not coming or visit her. So the first thing she does is give me orders that I'll be spending Christmas Eve and Christmas Day with her and my brother. She tells me how my dad is selfish for trying to take me on the good days, and she won't let that happen. Now, I wanted to tell my mom that saying that to me is selfish and entitled, but I bit my tongue and told her that's unfair since Dad paid for me to be home to spend time with him. and that she can have me on one day, but not both. I mean, not that money is the most important thing ever, but Dad has put so much effort into bringing me there, and he deserves the greatest benefit, as opposed to the whiny, selfish brat that I have for a mother. So at this point, she starts to whine and to lay on the guilt trip. She says, "But you are staying with your dad. He gets to see you every day. That's not fair to me. I'm only asking for Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. Christmas is about family. And your dad clearly did not care about our family." And I'm thinking, yeah, Mom, Christmas is about family, which is why I want to see Dad, his brothers, and my cousins. I tell her we were planning a sort of belated memorial dinner at my uncle's for Grandma, since most of us would be able to get together. So at this point, Mom starts threatening to show up at Uncle's to crash the dinner, since, quote, "Dad and I are still married in the eyes of God. I'm still part of the family." Thankfully, Dad's side of the family was prepared for her drama and planned for us to go meet on Boxing Day. But I still want to spend the 24th or 25th with my dad. So Mom brings in her trump card, her last resort. She says, "I already told your grandparents we're coming to visit." Great. She always uses her parents, who I adore by the way, to get what she wants. She says, "They're only available for a visit on Christmas Day. You don't want Grandma to get heartbroken and die, do you? Can you live with that?" It's not worth it to argue. I talked to my dad and he's super understanding, so I'm off to my mom's house for Christmas Eve. So my brother and I are chilling out, cracking jokes, and reminiscing about dumb kid stuff. Mom is insisting that we have to eat the stuff she likes, drink what she wants, and watch all the Christmas movies that she wants to watch. The night takes a turn for the worst when I get a text from my best friend of 15 years. His mother, who's been battling cancer for years, has just passed on. He never had a father in his life, so most likely he's gonna go through this alone. I'm in shock. I tell my mom I need to go to the hospital right away since he lost his mother to cancer on Christmas Eve. My mom says, "It's Christmas Eve. You can't go. He'll be fine." I told her his mother just died. I'm gonna go there to make sure he's okay. And my mom says, No, you can't go. I won't allow it. Christmas is about family." I then tell her his only family is gone and he's alone, and I'm going right now. My mom, actually shocked that I'm snapping back at her, said, "Okay, fine. You go see him since he's way more important than your brother and I. Thank you for ruining Christmas. Thank you for making your own decision to abandon our family on Christmas Eve to go see your friend." So it's 9 p.m. and I'm done with her. I told her I'm gonna go and I'll come home when I decide to. His mother just died. I walked out without a word. I came home hours later and somehow survived the rest of the holiday. My mom never apologized. My friend was okay, and while I'm super sad his mom died, I'm glad I was there when it happened. And yes, my mom did whine a bunch about me spending time going to the funeral instead of spending time with her. Remember guys, Christmas is about family, just not the dead or the grieving ones. What a heartless, entitled, and selfish person OP's mom is. Not to mention super manipulative. Like yeah, it's Christmas Eve and it's time to relax and to hang out with family, but a best friend of over 15 years would be considered family to many people out there. Clearly, this mom is all about herself and she couldn't give a care in the world about how anybody else feels or what they want. Now, this is a really dumb one, but it was satisfying, so why not share it? I'm a university student working a supermarket job that's just slightly above minimum wage. It's a nice enough job and the managers and colleagues are friendly, so I don't mind doing it. The customers are a mixed bag though. So every single week, without fail, this old woman comes in and asks for 4 gluten-free pizzas with triple mushroom and triple bacon. She always arrives super late into the shift, normally when we're running out of ingredients and are about to close. And it's usually a hit or miss whether we have gluten-free bases in store. And you'd better believe that she blames me when this happens. Now, I don't mind making large orders, but it's pretty inconvenient, especially when she comes so late in the evening. And even worse, she always has an attitude that's overall a nightmare to deal with. I've always worked with a rule that if a customer's nice and polite, that I'll return the favor and be nice back. If a customer is being over the top and rude, I'll put in the bare minimum efforts in whatever task I'm doing for them. So I finish at the same time every week, 8 p.m. Today, at about 7:55, I was closing my department. Now, I had put away everything. I was cleaning and getting ready to go home. Midway through cleaning, this woman rolls up to the counter. I apologize and explain that I'm closing down and finish at 8 p.m. The woman immediately starts complaining that she's been told that we're open until 9 p.m. I told her the store is open till 9, but the pizza department closes at 8 p.m. at the latest. And as I'm the only one working at that time, I have to close everything down an hour earlier. Now, the woman gets angry and walks off, before returning maybe 5 seconds later, after the thought of a sad pizzaless night flashes through her tiny brain. And she tells me something along the lines of, "No, you have enough time. Stop cleaning and make me my pizza. You don't close until you've done that." Now, I do argue back a little, but she was getting pissed. And as much as I do like to argue with dumb customers, I don't want to get in trouble with my managers. So I just look at her and say, "Ugh, I'll go to the freezer and see if we have any gluten-free bases." So I go to the warehouse knowing full well that we do have the bases, and I just chill there for about 10 minutes or so. I catch up with the warehouse team, check my phone, and you know the rest. When I feel like enough time has passed, I head back and she's still waiting there. With the most deadpan voice I can muster, I say, "Ugh, I'm sorry, we don't have any of the bases." The look of anger and defeat that flashed across her face was so damn satisfying. She kinda just threw up her hands before leaving, and I got back to finishing cleaning up. So the thing is, I don't mind making late orders for customers. It's super inconvenient, and making a late night pizza means I have to re-sanitize the surfaces, re-clean the utensils, and go home late. But if someone's polite to me, I respect the urge for a late night pizza. But if a customer's gonna be an entitled jerk, there's no way in hell that I'm gonna make that pizza. So this story happened yesterday, with me and my boyfriend going to a Japanese festival. The festival gets held every year at a large temple and cultural center, and this is my first time going. Now, I've wanted to go for the past few years, but for one reason or another, something else always came up that prevented me from going. So needless to say, I'm pretty excited to go now that the stars have perfectly aligned for me to go. Now, there's all sorts of events and activities going on, both inside and outside of the buildings when we arrive. There's music, food, educational speakers, presentations, etc., and my boyfriend and I spent the day having a great time. Eventually, we end up at a booth that allows people to pay to take pictures in traditional Japanese attire. We both dress up in a yukata, a casual version of a kimono, and at the end, the extremely nice Japanese lady running the booth tells us that if we'd like to purchase our own kimonos or yukatas, that her friend, another vendor, is selling them. I tell the lady thanks, I think it's pretty cool. So we go check out her friend's booth, and I end up purchasing one for myself and my boyfriend. Both of us really excited and putting them on right away to really embrace the festival. We end up going to get some food when someone calls out to us with a, "Hey, you two." We turn around to see two women with a kid. One woman is a white woman, Karen 1, and the other one is Asian, Karen number 2. Karen 1 says, Hi there, can I just ask if either of you are of Japanese descent?" Now, before I go on, I want to make it clear that my boyfriend and I are not Japanese. I jokingly said, "I'm not, but I'm not sure about him though." My boyfriend laughs and says, "Nah, I don't think so. I'm pretty sure my whole family's Irish." Karen number 1 then says, "Well, then why do you feel like you have the right to wear that?" Pointing at my kimono. Me, baffled at this point, said, "I'm sorry, I don't understand." She then goes on and says, "That's called cultural appropriation, and it's so wrong. You two need to take those off and never wear them again." My boyfriend looks at her and says, "Excuse me?" Karen 2 then chimes in and says, "It's just that if you aren't Japanese, you shouldn't be wearing those outfits. Japanese culture is not your fashion statement." Now this keeps going on for about 2 minutes. The whole time my boyfriend and I were just lost for words. The two seem to have a routine where Karen number 1 is the aggressor, constantly throwing out accusations, while Karen number 2 is just trying to guilt trip us. Karen number 1 is getting even more upset by the second. We try walking away at one point, but she blocks our path and says, "So are you gonna take that off or what? Don't walk away from me." Now, at this point her kid starts crying, probably because his mom just yanked the hell out of his arm and is screaming at strangers on a hot day. Karen number 1 says, "Great, look what you did. Now you're upsetting our son." My boyfriend then says, "Hey, you know what? Please leave us alone. A Japanese person told us that we can buy these and wear it at the festival, so we bought these at the festival and we're wearing it. You're just being ridiculous. At this point, some staff members have come over, since we're clearly causing a scene. Karen number 2 starts speaking to one of them, presumably in Japanese, while the other stuck with Karen 1, berating them, telling them that they should be ashamed of themselves, how they shouldn't allow anybody who isn't Japanese to wear things like this, etc. And she says that she's calling the police to shut down the festival. So it's right then that we try to get out of there. Karen 1 spots us trying to leave and tries to grab my boyfriend, who kind of just swats her hand away and says, "Don't touch me." She then lets out a scream saying, "Assault!" and suddenly pulls out pepper spray and sprays it at my boyfriend, getting him right in the eyes. And shockingly, they don't stick around for when the police show up. They take our statement of what happened, but unfortunately, this place doesn't have security footage and nobody was recording the incident. We made it very clear that when they're found, we want to press charges, but so far we haven't heard anything. After that, we went to the hospital to make sure that my boyfriend won't have any lasting eye damage. There was no call from the cops, but my boyfriend got a call from someone who's apparently a part of the people who run the event. He didn't ask how high up the chain they were, but the meat and bones of the conversation was that they were calling to offer an apology, and to inform him that they would cooperate in whatever way possible with the investigation. They also told him that they would be making some changes regarding security, and he seemed happy enough with the result. Guys, what an absolutely crazy story. I wonder how many people those two Karens harassed before it escalated into something huge like this. The fact that the woman grabbed OP's boyfriend and as soon as her hand was swatted away cried assault and pepper sprayed him is absolutely pathetic. Guys, I'm so angry that they were never caught and literally got away with assaulting someone. So one of the top comments in the post is this. This person says, "When a Japanese vendor is selling you Japanese culture, it's the exact opposite of cultural appropriation. You are giving them resources as a Japanese person profiting off their own culture." And this person says, "Louder for the morons in the back. When you purchase cultural goods from someone in that culture, you are supporting them and their art. Buying moccasins from a Native American who makes them is not cultural appropriation. Buying a kimono from a Japanese seamstress is not cultural appropriation." Now guys, I know everybody has different opinions, and I'm sure many of you will share yours in the comments section below. But all I ask is for you to be kind and respectful to one another, especially when it comes to these topics. Remember guys, the fight is against these entitled people, not each other. And that, my friends, brings us to another end of our /entitled people. Guys, we survived another episode. I hope you got your daily dose of entitled Karens today, and if you liked the episode, do give it a thumbs up. And if you missed the last episode of our /entitled people, a Karen calls the cops because OP won't let her son beat him in a video game. Imagine that, getting jailed for being too good at a friggin' video game. Guys, check it out if you haven't, and I'll see you guys in the next one. I love you.